guess I'm not going to be waiting. We're starting the class, and we're going to start with the review of this simple ternary form. Well, guys, you're going to work on the piece that I'm going to display on the screen. And also, I think I can send it to you through chat. Yeah, so while we're waiting for a couple more people, I guess I'm just gonna send you a quick email with the files that you'll need for today's class. And I'm gonna pause recording of the class for a second. Okay, guys, so I'm resuming recording. We're gonna start with analyzing, listening to Schumann Carnival, the last movement. The march of the well, how's it pronounced? David's bundlers against the Philistines. Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen. So that you can see which score you need to be opening. Right, so please open Schumann's file. You should have this score in front of you. And this is just a part, right? A part of a longer piece. This is what we will start our analysis exercise today in class.
Hi, sorry, can I ask a question? Did you say you sent it to us through our emails just now?
Yeah. Did you guys receive it? Can you check your emails? You know what? I think.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry. So if you guys remember last time we talked about two types of binary form, simple and rounded, and also simple ternary form. And the two forms, rounded binary and simple ternary, were very similar. And when we did dictation, well, there was one piece which could be analyzed as rounded binary or simple ternary, the second piece, right? So what's the difference between rounded binary and simple ternary? Well, in rounded binary, you have A section, which is typically a period of two phrases or maybe more phrases. Then B section starts with a new phrase, right? Not borrowed from A. And then at the end of B section, you'll hear half of A section coming back without or with some changes. And the some changes will be to, well, make sure that the cadence happens in the home key. Right, so in rounded binary, typically one of the phrases from the A section, from the period contained in the A section, is brought back to round the entire form. And in simple ternary, again, there is a recapitulation, but the difference is that the entire A section is coming back after the middle section. So let's say that if A section was a parallel period, right, this parallel period is brought back after B. Right, with some changes or without any changes. Or if it was contrasting period, again, contrasting period will be brought back after the B section. So, so guys, I hope you all opened the file, Schumann, right? And I'm gonna start sharing the screen. So this is the file that we need. Now, what I would like you to tell me after listening this file. Again, I'm gonna type in chat. So type of form, right? Then, well, the full definition, right? Then whether it's sectional or continuous, right? Whether it's two reprise or not. Right, now also what I'd like you to tell is the structure of A section, right? And I would like you to find mod mixture chords, right? And also be able to respond questions about cadences, right? So label all cadences or analyze if you can't label them, right? Okay, so I think we're ready to listen to the file, and I'm going to play it back twice, right? So please take a note, and I'm going to be asking you those questions right after we hear it twice. All right, let's begin. stop, the piece continues into another larger section. Let's go back to the beginning and listen to it again. So I'll give you a minute. And I'm gonna ask you guys some of the questions that were analyzed between your answers in different ways. So I'm gonna display the screen again. So some of you got very complete analysis, or got more or less complete analysis from Kevin, and Daniel had most of the answers too, but some of you had good partial answers, some of you had mixed answers. So let's look at this piece. Yes, indeed, it's simple ternary, so that was determined correctly. Now, some of you were saying that this simple ternary is sectional, others were saying that it's continuous. Now, it's important to remember what the difference is. Sectional form is where E section has a cadence in tonic at the end of section E, right? Authentic cadence, perfect authentic cadence, less frequently imperfect authentic cadence, right? In a home key, right? So the home key is A flat major. Now look at the last chord in the E section, right? Which is the last chord of the first system. What kind of chord do you see? What kind of chord is this? Can you name this harmony? So the last chord of the first system. And I'm gonna play back again the first section. Yeah, I see some responses through chat. Yeah, F minor. So this is F minor chord, right? Under no circumstances it could be read as E flat major chord, which is our tonic, right? So what happens here is that E section modulates, right, to the key of relative minor, to F minor. And there is indeed an authentic cadence, but it's in a different key. And therefore, because this authentic cadence is in a different key, not in a home key, this form is continuous. So the answer to the second question is that it's continuous form. Now, is it two reprise or not? Well, many answered this question. It's a two reprise form because A section is repeated. The repetition is abbreviated with repeat signs. And the B and E sections are repeated together as it was common in classical and romantic period. Therefore, it's two reprise form. All sections are repeated, right? And that's what we call two reprise form. Repetitions can be abbreviated with repeat signs or written out continuously, as we've seen it in the previous class. All right, now question about cadences. So I think I'm gonna play back one more time the file and stop at the cadence and ask you what cadence it is. Now, what's the difference? Shanyu is asking, what's the difference between simple ternary and ternary? It really depends. Sometimes when people use the term ternary, they mean simple ternary, or they mean another type of ternary form. So ternary is a group name for all types of ternary forms, just like binary, right? So remember, we started talking about binary and then identified that there are two types of binary, simple binary and rounded binary. So both of them are binary forms, just of different types. Same with ternary, right? We have several types of ternary form, and two more types we're going to learn today. In the group of ternary forms, we have simple ternary, and then our next topic is going to be looking at compound ternary and large ternary. Simple ternary is the smallest from these three types of ternary form. The official definition of simple ternary is that simple ternary is the form where all sections, or at least a section, and typically you would be looking at the a section. So in simple ternary, I'm going to type it, a section is a period, right? Or is in a form of a period. Right? So this is what makes the difference between, well, generic ternary, right, and specifically simple ternary, right? And oh, I think I was typing it to Daniel only. Sorry about that. So in simple ternary, a section is in a form of a period, right? And that's what we have here. So a section is written in a form of a period, right? So here is the first phrase, the first four measures, and then the second phrase is another four measures. So the question was, what type of period is heard here? Well, it's a parallel period. Compare measures 1 and 5, and 2 and 6, right, and 3 and 7. So only between 3 and 7 you'll notice the difference between the two phrases, right? So phrases are very similar. Second phrase has different ending because it modulates to F minor, right? So we have two phrases, A prime. Okay, now since the time is flying fast, right? I'm gonna talk about cadences next when we check the analysis. The only thing that I want you to answer is the mode mixture chords, right? So I know that Kevin found the mode mixture chords. Now I wanted to look at the score, and everybody but Kevin look for mode mixture chords. Now, again, what happened with many of the responses I received, that you jumped to the first accidental you saw in the score, and then you said, here it is, mode mixture chord, but nobody identified the chord itself, right? So if you guys didn't hear the mode mixture, what's the strategy in finding the mode mixture chords? Well, remember which scale degrees in major are affected by modal mixture. And those scale degrees, so scale degrees in major affected by modal mixture. So those are scale degrees flat 2 for Neapolitan, right? Flat 3 and flat 6 and flat 7, right, for all other chords. And we'll have different chords with this lowered scale degrees, right? We can have flat 3 triad, or flat 6 triad, flat 7 triad, or minor subdominant, right? So now think about it. So we're in E flat major, right? In E flat major, right? What notes are flat 2, right? Flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7, right? Can you name those notes, right? So, again, guys, you can unmute your mic and tell me. So flat 2 and E flat major would be what note? Let's begin with flat 2. So what pitch is flat 2, scale degree flat 2? And
B double flat?
Yeah, B double flat, right? B double flat, right? Okay. Now, do you see B double flat here? No, right? So look for the next one. What's the flat 3? Scale degree flat 3. Can you name it? What would be flat 3? C flat. Okay, do we see C flat here? C flat. Is there a C flat in the score? And then you can think about what is flat 6 in E flat major. So flat 6 is what? F flat. Yeah, okay. And I was typing to Eunice again. Okay, and what's flat 7? So flat 7 is what? G flat. Yeah. So look for those notes, right? C flat, F flat, G flat. We haven't found Neapolitan, it's not here, but other chords could be here. So now tell me in what measure or measures you found those notes. Second line, measure 7. Yeah. So over here, right? Now let's figure out what is this chord, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And measure 7, what's this chord? How would you analyze it in E flat major? So what would be the Roman numeral? So guys, type in chat yes. So Daniel responded to me, that's correct. Yes, Eunice, that's correct. Carrie, correct. And now waiting to hear from Shanyu, from Christy, from Vanlan. And somebody just dropped out. Yeah, what's the Roman numeral, Shanyu? So what's the Roman numeral? How would you analyze this chord with Roman numeral? And I'm talking to Shanyu. Yes, that's correct. Okay, yes. Yeah. Yeah, Vanlan, so you would say, and this is the last response, you would say flat free. Yeah, this is tried on flat free. Okay, so let's check the analysis with what I have here. So I only have partial analysis. So yes, yeah, I guess I don't have like a full analysis for you guys, but yeah, so here we go. Sorry for handwritten kind of score. So it's simple ternary, well, balanced. I didn't ask you this question, but it's balanced. Two reprise, continuous, right? And we have parallel period E prime. Then in B section starts with a long sequence for 8 measures, right? And the pattern of the sequence about 4 measures, right? So it's like 2 phrases acting as a pattern of the sequence and its repetition. And then E and E prime comes back, at least with the first repetition, right? Cadences. The first section concludes with perfect outended cadence in F minor. There is a modulation to relative minor. Then we have 2 cadences in well, actually, yeah, sorry. The rest of the piece modulates to F minor, right? So we have perfect outended cadence in F minor. So somebody joined us back. So let's see. Yeah, somebody was able to join back. Looking at the cadences, right? So we have perfect outended cadence in F minor at the end of the first system. We don't have really that much of a cadence in measure 4. You may analyze it as half cadence in E flat measure, going back to the end of the first phrase, right? Then what happens in measures 7 and 8 of the second system, it's quite interesting. We have a modal mixture, flat free, and this chord, right? The last chord with an accent, half note, right? Measure 8 with G flat and the bass is actually the dominant of flat free, 5/4 flat free, right? You could also analyze it as flat 7 triad, but it's linked to flat free, right? And in a way it acts as a dominant of flat free. And you see also something interesting is happening in the bass. G flat is repeated an octave lower and respelled as F sharp. Now, why did Schumann do that? Well, because this F sharp, right, an octave lower, is now acting as a tendency tone, right, to G, right, to the dominant of E flat major, and returns us to E flat major. And here's where recapitulation begins, right? We hear E again, right, and E prime, and modulation to F minor. And the second repeat, well, connects this section to the next bigger section. Okay, guys, so next we're going to talk about compound ternary form. Compound ternary form. So I'm going to type this in chat. compound ternary. And what's the difference between simple ternary and compound ternary? Well, compound ternary is a larger piece, right, in which at least E section is in a simple form. And what's this simple form? Well, simple form is either simple binary, right, or rounded binary, or simple ternary. Simple ternary. Right, so typically you'll see that in compound ternary there are three large sections, right, EBE, right, and each section is either AB or ABE, right? So, well, this sounds abstract, but it means that actually in classical era there were sort of two pieces put together, minuet in trio, and later it was changed by Beethoven in his sonata cycles to scherzo in trio. And minuet or scherzo is written in either simple rounded binary or simple ternary, right? So it's a short piece of its own, right? And trio is also written in either rounded binary or simple ternary, and it's another short piece of its own. And they're connected together through a tonal plan, meaning that the relationship between them is either closely related in terms of the keys, or a parallel, for example. Parallel key relationship was also very common. And after we hear middle section, E section is typically repeated without any changes. And in this case, the overall diagram would be EBE, or repeated with some changes. And in this case, the overall diagram would be EBE prime, right? So where E section is repeated with some changes. Okay, and this is something what's called compound ternary, or another alternative name which you can come across is composite ternary, right? So both means that, well, it's a larger composition which consists of smaller parts put together, or smaller pieces put together. So this form is also referred to as minuet and trio, right, or aria da capo, because it was also used in aria da capo pieces, which were part of the operas, as you know. Okay, so you see that the score that I have on display is already analyzed, and again, I'm sorry for handwritten notes. But overall form, as you can see in the top right corner, is compound ternary. It's ABE, right? And it means that E section is repeated without any changes. Now, this is a second movement of Beethoven's string quartet number 13, right? The usual placement in the sonata cycle of the compound ternary was in the third movement, in the sonata cycles by Haydn and Mozart. And as you know from music history, Beethoven reversed the order of the middle movements, meaning that quite often he would have second movement as fast movement, right, as scherzo and trio, right, and then third movement would be slow movement, right. Unlike the classical composers, so the composers from classical era, Haydn and Mozart, who would always have second movement as slow movement and third movement as minuet and trio in a 4-movement sonata cycles. Okay, so now the overall form is sectional, and that means that the big A section, right, has a authentic cadence in home key. It's unbalanced by proportions, and it's 2 reprise. Now, each of the sections, E, B, E, are written in small forms. So look at the left side, right, of the file. So the E section is written in 2 reprise or 2 reprise sectional binary form, and it's balanced. Well, what's the structure of this binary form? Well, the E section of the binary form is a parallel period. There are 2 phrases, E, E prime. First phrase ends with half cadence, second phrase with perfect authentic cadence in a home key. So that's why it's sectional, right? Second part of this binary form is written in a form of sentence, right? There is one long phrase, B, which subdivides into subsections 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2, and it ends in with perfect identity cadence in the home key in B flat minor, and that makes the whole compound ternary form sectional, right? So in a way, the compound ternary form is a nested form where you have three large sections, and within those three sections, there's other binary and ternary forms, binary or ternary, right? So let's start listening to the piece, and I'm gonna pause before the second big middle section of the compound ternary form. Okay, and guys, watch the score. It goes really, really fast. Sorry, I just, yeah, here we go. Okay, so that was the A section of the compound ternary form, which by itself was a sectional binary form, right? So what happens next? Well, we are starting to hear the big B section, right? It goes really fast, and it's written in the parallel key in B flat major. So you see that, well, at the bottom of the page, you'll see the analysis of the B section. It's a simple ternary form, two reprise, sectional, unbalanced. So the first section of this ternary form is written in the form of the parallel period. You see two phrases, C, C prime. The second middle section consists of a number of long phrases, sequential phrases, and I left it without analysis. Sometimes you can live without analysis middle section if it doesn't form a period and if it's expanded significantly. And here is where recapitulation begins. Here is the same parallel period, C, C prime, right? Just an octave higher. So I'm gonna decrease the score a little bit so that we can see the entire, almost entire B section. And let's listen to the, yeah, that's too small, sorry. I'm gonna scroll the pages. So let's listen to the B section of the compound ternary form. So what happens now is that the big B section is over, and what we hear right now is the link, a connective passage that connects the B section and A. Now you can find a link between any big sections of the form, between A and B, between B and A, right? It's heard after we hear the conclusion of one section, maybe quite often after the perfect identity cadence, right? And it connects melodically the middle section with the recapitulation, right? And that's the most common place where you'll find those links. So, what we're going to hear next is the recapitulation of the big E section of the compound form. Now, what's going to be different? So you see that there are no abbreviated repetitions anymore. Instead, you'll hear written out repetitions. So we have E, E prime phrase of the parallel period, and then repetition of E and E prime phrase again with some additional trills and slight textual variation, but the harmonies are not changed. That's why we don't have different letters, different numbers, right, added to this letters. So we're not going to analyze it as E, E prime, E double prime, E triple prime, no. that can only happen if you have harmonic changes, different chords, different cadences. If the harmonies are the same, if the bass line are the same, it's in terms of the analysis of form considered to be an exact repetition with some textual changes or registral changes. Okay, so let's hear it. Okay, well, what we started listening to is the middle section, second section of the binary form B, right? Again, it's written out with some textual repetitions, B, right, and B again. And after that, after the perfect outdated cadence, after the piece is over, we'll hear coda. So let's get there first. Okay, so we arrived at the coda section, right? And it brings back the material of the E section, right? And it fragments it even more, right? So let's hear the coda. And this coda starts after the perfect outdated cadence, which is quite common for codas. Some other codas can start with a deceptive cadence or as an extension of the phrase at first. Okay, so today perhaps we're going to focus on just compound or composite ternary. So our next task will be analyzing this file, right? So I sent you guys this file. It's very short, so I think we can manage in the remaining time to do a thorough analysis, right? So please open this file, Beethoven's Bagatelle, right? And what I need you to analyze is everything, pretty much, right? Again, I'm going to be typing in the chat what you need to respond to me about. Definition of the form, right? Actually, I'm going to create a list so that you know what you need to address, right? Okay, so definition of the form, then definition of the form of each section, right? Then definition of the period type in each A section, right? Well, I hope I'm gonna tell you what I mean. So whether the form is sectional or continuous, right? And to reprise or not. Okay, so basically I want you to analyze well, the overall form, right? Give it a definition, and then within each section of this large form, right, you'll find another form, right? And I want you to give a definition to this form, right? And each of these, well, smaller forms will have an A section, and this A section will probably contain a period. So I want you to give a definition of the period, whether it's parallel, contrasting, or other. And then I want you to tell me if the form is to reprise or not, if it's sectional or continuous, overall, and for each of the smaller forms as well, right, within, nested within the larger form, right? Okay, so let's start listening. And actually, this piece is on YouTube, so I'm going to be switching to YouTube for that. Okay, so here is our list, and here is our piece. Okay, guys, and there were already a lot of repetition in the piece itself, so I'm not gonna be playing it again, but I'll give you 3 minutes to analyze the entire piece, and we'll check at 1:56. And because we started later today, so some were joining the class later, I'm gonna go over time a little bit, right? And our theory class will end at 2:05 or 2:10. I think it's important to cover more theory right now, since the ear training is a little bit impaired by Zoom. So I'll give you 3 minutes.